What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Brian Costa, and tonight I have got a great episode in store for you. We have got a lot to talk about, and we're going to be covering some topics that I don't really talk about on this show too often because it has been a crazy week in the sports world. Obviously, you guys saw me on my Wednesday show with Zeke Kransdorf. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was kind of on my deathbed during that show. I don't know what got into me, but that show was like my flu game. So I managed to make it through, and it was a great episode with Zeke. I'm glad that he came onto that show. But I'm glad to be, I think doing, my first, 2-show week for the first time this semester. And with that being said, I want to bring back a familiar face to this show. He's been on plenty of episodes before. So without any further ado, Mr. Graysen Mortimer, welcome back to Down the Wire. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm happy to be here, and so let's get into it.
Absolutely. So, Graysen, obviously, the first thing I want to touch on tonight is the World Cup. And listen, I'm going to preface this first. You know me, Graysen. I am the furthest thing from a soccer fan on the face of the earth, and especially because I'm calling it soccer and not football.
Man.
I will never call it football. It is soccer. It will always be soccer. And this is coming from someone who was raised in a soccer town of Sutton, Massachusetts. I will never call it anything but soccer. So that's my stance on it. But I know you're a big soccer fan, or whatever you want to call it. But we're going to talk some World Cup news. I'll let you kind of talk about some of the stuff regarding the teams. But first things first, the major storyline that dropped from the World Cup today is the fact that they will not be selling any alcohol at the games in around the stadiums or in the stadiums themselves. And I got to tell you, man, this is a wild development, mainly because I can't imagine watching a soccer game sober. Now, I've done it in high school, but goddamn, if you're a grown adult, I don't know how you can do that. So what are your thoughts on this whole mess?
Well, I mean, every game I've ever been to, I've been sober, and frankly, I kind of just take in the atmosphere.
Fair enough.
And that includes, seeing over 50 games in the U.S., most primarily the New England Revolution, but I've also seen some international friendlies. And then I've also seen give or take about 20 matches in Europe.
Okay.
Spanning in about 6 countries, ranging from the UK, France, Germany, Italy, Portugal, and Spain. So I definitely have a pretty big background there in watching games. And now, while I personally haven't drank while at a game,
other people plenty of people that do.
Other people do, especially the two crowds I think of immediately when I see this are the English and the Germans. Both of those countries love their booze.
How are they going to survive, man?
I don't know how the British are going to survive. Like, being completely honest, I know a ton of English fans, and they kind of go crazy. It's going to be a lot tamer, I think, than it normally would be, which maybe that's what they're going for with this decision. But overall, it's a huge loss, I think, because there's a loss of not even just the fans, but it's a loss of revenue.
Yeah,
like the amount of money that either Qatar itself could make or these alcohol companies could make is catastrophic.
Well, I know FIFA is signed into a major deal with Budweiser originally for the World Cup, and now they're not going to be able to sell any of their product at the games. I mean, I heard that one of the things that was funny to me is that there was like a little tagline under like the article saying that alcohol would be banned, and they ended up saying the sale of Bud Zero will still be permitted at the games. And for any of you who don't know, Bud Zero is just 0% alcohol Budweiser. That has got to be terrible. I drink Bud Light, and I will admit to it. I'm 21 years old, so I can admit to this, but I drink it for the results. I'm sorry. I understand where it is. It's cheap and it's effective. I'll probably go back after this show and I'll have 1 or 12 tonight.
It is Friday, man. You can do you there.
No, exactly. But but in all honesty, the fact that they're just saying, yeah, we'll have non-alcoholic options. I'm sorry, man. You don't understand what the World Cup is. I've at least watched some games, and I've been obviously, watch stuff on TV, but if you're in the stands there, it's an integral part of the experience. For a good number of people. I'm not saying that you need to do that to have a good time and that needs to be a thing, but there is a major revenue thing behind this.
Absolutely.
And the fact that, FIFA went into this thing and they thought they could probably, just accept all this money from Qatar and then get out of this deal and be okay. That's on them. This is a major fail on them. And obviously I know that FIFA has had plenty of failures throughout their time. I know you can probably get into a lot more of that, but
absolutely.
just break this down for me, because I know Qatar threw a ton of money at FIFA. And I know some people say, say it will end up saying to me, oh, it's pronounced Qatar. With the way they run their country right now and the way that their human rights violations just go, I'm not giving them that right. They're Qatar to me. I'm sorry. But what are your thoughts on everything?
Yeah. So to give a little bit of the history about this. So back in the early, I want to say it was either the early 2010s or just before that. The former FIFA president, Sepp Blatter, who is by and far one of the most corrupt individuals to ever grace any sport.
Again, I don't watch the sport, and I knew this dude's name mainly from John Oliver. But
yes. Sepp Blatter is one of the most corrupt individuals to ever grace the game. He gave World Cups to not just Qatar, but he also gave the 2018 World Cup to Russia, which was also considered, a bit of a bad decision because it's a similar case. Russia paid them off.
Yeah.
So while Blatter was filling his pockets, he wasn't really considering any of this by awarding these 2 World Cups. Now, do I think it'll get better with the current FIFA president? So far, I'd say yes, because Gianni Infantino did give the 2026 World Cup to the United States, Canada, and Mexico, which is by and far better than either of the last 2 venues. Now, in 2014, it was in Brazil. Brazil was a great venue for it, huge culture there. But the last 2 World Cups, Russia, Qatar, have not had that same level of culture to the game that say a Brazil or even a South Africa has.
Mm-hmm.
Now, while this was happening too, Qatar had no real stadiums. Now, it had some for its local domestic teams, but it had to build some. So the fact is that while they were building these stadiums, they were using predominantly migrant workers in this country, and over 6,500 of them died while these stadiums were being built. So not only is and they're basically just building these stadiums, from what I can tell, out of just like spare parts. Yeah, shipping containers. Yeah, a lot of them have been shipping containers, and
which is crazy. I saw like one of the stadiums. It literally looks like I'm trying to think. It looks like the shipping boat from Grand Theft Auto 5. Like it literally looks like that. It literally looks like they took the containers from that yard. Absolutely. And they were just like, F it, just throw it on this building.
Yeah. So yeah, these workers were not given, the water, and the stadiums look awful.
They do.
They are not appealing stadiums. They're not like your, if you're going traditional here, your Camp Nou's from Barcelona or your Santiago Bernabeu's from Real Madrid, or even, Premier League stadiums like Tottenham Stadium is a newer stadium. Beautiful stadium. I've been there twice. Gorgeous stadium. Or the new Wembley. Like, those are iconic footballing stadiums. The ones built in Qatar are not the most graceful things you'll ever see. They're really not. They are ugly. They are hideous, and they are not made for this sport. So it's between the human rights violations and the heat and the fact they had to move the World Cup to
the winter. And that's the other thing too, because you were mentioning the stadiums and just that they look awful. They're also ineffective too, because from what I've heard, that the AC units, like, they're basically saying, oh, well, they're going to have it in the winter and they're going to have like cooling units that should work to like keep the players cold. I've heard those units may not even work in time for the games.
Yeah, no,
that's the crazy thing too, is that
the game starts Sunday.
Yeah, the game start on Sunday, and they're going to have, and it's going to be in the middle of a desert that's, from what I've heard, what's it going to be, like 90 something degrees there?
It's going to be hot.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, it was going to be like 120 if they had it during the summer. It would have been like the surface of the sun.
Oh, it's a disaster. I mean, to have it there.
This thing seems like the Fire Festival of soccer tournaments. And
it absolutely will be.
Where there were a ton of huge prospects going into it. It was like, oh my God, we're going to throw so much money at this. It's going to be the best thing ever. Take all this money from us. We're going to make you guys rich and enjoy these games. And then they were like, oh shoot, they bought it. Okay, now we actually have to throw together a World Cup. How are we going to do that?
Pretty much.
And they have no idea what to do.
Yeah, and even with the Russia one, obviously Russia's done a lot, worse things nowadays than when they did in 2018. But say what you will about that World Cup, it was still at least played in the summer and during the normal season, and it was at least in a decent climate. Same with, Brazil's a hotter country, but it's more humidity. Qatar is just a straight up dry heat of 120, like it in the summertime. It's just not. It's not built for the game.
No.
And the fact that they're having it there is just beyond lunacy. It's just ridiculous. Not even to mention the injuries.
Yeah, no. Wait, so just take me through this. Are they? I know the Women's World Cup is usually a year after. Is that happening in Qatar as well? Because
no,
I was about to say,
yeah, those venues are different.
I was about to say, there's no way in hell that's going to be able to happen.
Yeah, I want to say the next one's in France, but I'm not entirely sure. If you want to, quickly look that one up, go for it. But no, the Women's World Cup has traditionally been held in a different country.
It's in Australia and New Zealand. That's where
Australia and New Zealand. Okay, I think the last one may have been in France. If I'm not mistaken, but I could be. Yeah, the Women's World Cup's played a year after, but it's thankfully not in.
I was about to say, like, if you want to talk about a future storyline that's going to come up, that would be one.
Oh yeah,
like how would that even be possible? No, but I mean, that's a great venue. Like, you want to talk about Australia? Like,
Australia, New Zealand, fantastic.
That'd be a fantastic venue. And the fact that FIFA didn't chase that more for the Men's Cup is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows that where the money in the game is, and it's unfortunately the same for a lot of big sports organizations. I mean, obviously the IOC has been majorly corrupt in a lot of different scenarios, and actually not Sepp Blatter, but the guy before him for FIFA also worked for the IOC. And basically got charged for, fraud. So he got charged for two organizations, and it kind of says it's like there's people running these things that just are not qualified. Well, not necessarily not qualified, but they're just they have no backbone. They'll bend under the pressure of bribery. And I mean, obviously the MLB's had its issues, not so much with money, but with just Rob Manfred and the NFL with Roger Goodell. It's like,
but I've heard it's on another level with FIFA.
Oh, absolutely. FIFA and the IOC are by and far the worst too. Like,
because here's the thing, you can say that Roger Goodell and stuff, like, probably the worst thing that they've done is maybe cover up the concussion thing. Like, you can talk about the domestic violence, but they accept it and they've probably dealt out punishments. But the big thing with them is that the punishments haven't been severe enough. But they've acknowledged it from what at least in some instance. FIFA is just straight up the mafia.
No, they absolutely were. And I think they're making strides. I do think Gianni Infantino, who's the current FIFA president, I do think he's better.
Okay.
But by
how much?
Well, he hasn't done anything too egregious yet. He awarded the World Cup to North America, which I think was a good decision.
Sure.
He's said in the past that he's going to up the prize money for the women, which they do generate a decent amount of revenue for the World Cup, so that decision does make sense. So yeah, he's definitely been better. Nothing egregious so far. We'll see. He's only 53, and these guys often last until they're 75 in these positions.
Oh wow.
Sepp Blatter's 86, and he got removed when he was 79 in 2015.
Oh my God.
He was removed. Like they were onto this guy and were like, okay, you're terrible. Get out.
Please leave.
Like that is Sepp Blatter, and he's an absolute disgrace to the game, and no one frankly likes him.
Yeah. Now, I know one of the big things that was interesting, to kind of go back to the beer sales and stuff like that, is that this was a late reversal. This was, there were a bunch of things going on with this, and they ended up, the original discussion was, all right, hey, we're not going to have alcohol at the games. And then FIFA tried walking it back, and they ended up saying, well, like, let's try to do something else. And then they switched and they said, all right, we'll have alcohol at the games, but we're going to do this, this, and this. And one of the big key tenets that they were going to try to push is that if you consumed any amount of alcohol during the games, you would not be allowed to leave the premises until the authorities there deemed you to be sober. So what they were going to do is they were going to have essentially drunk tents where they were going to take people who were deemed intoxicated, and you would have to sober up in a tent before you could leave the place.
That's insane. And I didn't actually hear about that.
Yeah, that was something I had heard about. I was listening to 98.5 The Sports Hub back when this was happening, and this was something that I think some guys were reporting on at the time, which was crazy. I mean, and here's the thing: I'd say over here you could maybe be somewhat comfortable with people saying, "Oh yeah, hey, sober up, like just like chill out, do this." But over there, where they have a ton of money, and they're technically not third world, but the way they operate is, very like centuries ago. I don't know how to say it. But to have them determine when you'd be fit to leave somewhere, I don't think that's a comfortable place to be.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing is like what I thought of for why they would ban alcohol to begin with. I was wondering myself is like, was it possibly the fact that it's kind of a little traditional there?
Yeah, and
that could be part of it
and
too.
here's the thing, it is a religious thing. So I want to say this. For FIFA, like they knew going into this that is something that they could do. Like alcohol is illegal throughout the country. There, you can't get it. Like it's like illegal because of religious law. So they should have known. They should have known better going into this, and they should have been like, all right, like we negotiate with these guys beforehand, and we get the terms hammered out in a contract before we do this. And then but then they were like, but it's a lot of money, so we should just take it anyways, and hope for the best. And they were stupid. They were stupid with this.
Absolutely. And yeah, I will say, as I said, Infantino is definitely better than the previous guys, but the one thing he definitely could have done, a little more in advance when he was, named president, was potentially try to move the tournament. But
when
the one issue with that is like once it's named, it's hard to take it away.
Yeah. And unless they do something like obviously like they have like Qatar has like their human rights policies and like the way that they treat people, but there wasn't like a specific thing that they had done. Like from what I can tell,
it was just money.
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't just money. Like I know that it was just money that got them the tournament, Graysen. But what I'm saying is that there wasn't like a movement that broke out that really, since this could have like where FIFA could have said like, oh, hey, because of this movement and like because of this like current event going on, we're now going to pull out. Like they can't just say, well, after looking at you guys and realizing your history, now we're going to do this. Like they couldn't have done that.
Yeah, no, it for sure. It is a sticky situation, for sure, and it is tough to move it. If anything, I think what would have been the main cause of moving it would have been the fact that how they were building the stadiums, that the stadiums weren't ready.
Sure.
Which somehow they pulled it off. And we'll see how that goes for the actual games, which start on Sunday with Qatar against Ecuador. But yeah, it's not good.
We're just gonna see a Team Ecuador player get his leg broken by a falling pipe.
That would be disastrous. I really hope that doesn't happen.
A sprinkler head's just gonna come out of there, and someone's gonna like.
I don't even know if they have sprinklers, to be honest with you.
Honestly, that's a fair point. I was giving them a lot of credit, saying that they're gonna have irrigation systems there in a desert.
No, I don't know if that's gonna happen.
That is a fair point, Graysen. But I know that you had some thoughts on the players and the actual like kind of seeding going on right there. So give me your take on, things going into it. I'll give you the floor.
Yeah. So I'll talk a little bit first about why having a World Cup in the midseason is one of the worst decisions ever. There's guys that are injured, that there's major injuries for each team. I mean, if you look at just France, they're missing their two best midfielders in Paul Pogba and N'Golo Kante. Respectively for Juventus and Chelsea is where they play club football. Both of them helped France win the World Cup in 2018. That was a big thing. Like the fact that their top two guys in midfield are both out is a massive loss for the French. And probably for me pegs them down. I don't think they're going to repeat champion because those guys are too crucial. Sadio Mane for Senegal, who he finished second in the Ballon d'Or, which for our viewers that don't really follow the beautiful game, the Ballon d'Or is the individual men's award for the best player in the world.
Yeah.
Sadio Mane finished second behind Karim Benzema for this award, proving that this guy is really good. And he's out for Senegal. So Senegal's chances just went down the drain. Like that, they're screwed. There's no way that they're going to advance through their group. Sadio Mane was their team. If you look at Germany, like both Marco Reus and Timo Werner are out. Reus, I feel bad for, especially because this guy works his butt off every day. Like he's 31, 32. He's around that age frame. He's been with Dortmund since 2012, or maybe even earlier than that. This guy has missed every single tournament that has come up. He missed the World Cup in 2010, I believe. He missed the Euros in 2012, missed the World Cup in 2014, missed Euro 2016, missed the World Cup in 2018, missed the Euros last year, and now he's missing the World Cup because it's a midseason this year. Like all through injury. Now, Marco Reus, when he plays, phenomenal player, and he is normally pretty good. I saw him last year for Dortmund. Like this guy just can't catch a break. And then Timo Werner, who's probably Germany's best striker, going forward, he's got speed and can run past anybody. But then also for England, Reece James is out. He's probably their best right back.
Okay.
And then Paulo Dybala for Argentina, like crucial player. And then for my own country, Canada, our defender Scott Kennedy, who probably wasn't going to start anyway, but he definitely had a chance. He plays in Germany. And then our backup goalkeeper Maxime Crepeau broke his leg in MLS Cup final. So, that something that injury especially could have been prevented if it was a normal World Cup, because the MLS season tends to run over, but it was MLS Cup final and he put his, literal leg on the line for this. So yeah, it's just a bad thing. And then, going into the groups a little bit now, I'm actually, fun fact, starting a podcast tomorrow. So please tune into Football Bizz. I'm going to definitely start it on YouTube and hopefully Spotify as well. So tune in to hear a lot about the groups with myself and Hunter Boyven. It'll be a great show. But, like teams like Senegal, who are in Group A, I would have originally picked them to finish second. But then with Mane out, I think that Ecuador is going to finish second now because of that. And countries like Ecuador might be one of the few that is actually used to these conditions because, Ecuador, they're literally on the equator. So, that definitely hurts their chances. And then, looking at, the French are going to get knocked down a peg. And some people don't even think the French are going to win their group, even though their group has Australia, who absolutely is not going to win anything at this tournament. Just because the quality of their team is just not as high. But then Denmark is definitely, I think, finishing first. I do think that the loss of Pogba and Conte is going to make Denmark a more suitable team, especially with the team spirit they had coming off a good Euro 2020. They finished in the semifinals, which for a nation like Denmark is an absolutely amazing achievement. They have won their Euros before, but it was still a very promising achievement. And then, teams like Germany get knocked down a peg, missing guys too. So it just kind of says it's like, certain guys impact this season and really, like, I mean, look at it this way. Like if Belgium lost, Kevin De Bruyne, or, they currently are potentially without Romelu Lukaku, who's their big striker, Belgium might not be as good as people might think because, Belgium's a small country. It is in kind of what is known as the tail end of a golden generation. And because of that, they're, maybe knocked down a peg and maybe even enough to lose to Croatia. So just the fact that injuries have just plagued this is just absolutely incredible to me. But as for World Cup predictions, I absolutely think I put my money on Germany. I think the Germans have a great shot. They have a great squad. But most importantly, they have a Champions League winning coach. Which the Champions League is for those viewers that don't know, the Champions League is the premier European competition where basically all the top teams play each other from their respective leagues. And then the winner of that is the winner of the Champions League. Their coach, Hansi Flick, has won the Champions League with Bayern Munich. And he is, in my opinion, going to be the difference in the World Cup. Because one thing about World Cup coaches and international coaches, a lot of them are failed club coaches. They don't go far, playing for, not even playing, managing a team in, say, England. So what they do is they'll go into international management where it tends to be a little bit easier. You don't have as many games. You have maybe 5 or 6 a year, depending on, what the premise is. Obviously, There's more during World Cup qualifying and then tournaments like the World Cup. But I mean, Hansi Flick is absolutely, I think, in my mind, the best coach out there for the World Cup. And I think that he is going to be enough to bring the Germans back home the World Cup. That's what I got for a little rundown. Tune in tomorrow to Football Bizz to hear a little bit more.
That was a nice little preview for Graysen's upcoming podcast. I appreciate the intel there, Graysen. Before we do transition though, I do want to get a little bit of a take on Team USA. I know obviously, from what I've heard, their main thing is that they have a good bunch of talent, but it's their coach that's really holding them back.
Greg Berhalter is terrible.
Yeah. What I have heard about him, and I've heard that he's just been kind of I don't know if that he's like a cancer in the locker room or what it is with him, but like for your experience, take me through what ruins him for this team.
Yeah, Berhalter was a decent coach for Columbus Crew when he was there.
Sure.
It's just his squad selection. There are guys in the U.S. that absolutely deserve a shot. The biggest one is a striker named Ricardo Pepi, in my opinion. This guy is playing in the Dutch league, which is, in my opinion, I'm a big MLS fan, but the Dutch league is better than MLS. It just is. And Ricardo Pepi's, scoring goals for fun in the Dutch league. He's got, I believe, 7 and 8 or 6 and 8 or something like that.
Okay.
He's absolutely making an impact. And the fact that he got left out is ridiculous. Arguably one of the U.S. best center backs, John Brooks, he's not going to the tournament. He played in 2014 and he was great. So it's just some of his squad selections. They just don't make any sense. And then there's guys that are in that team like DeAndre Yedlin, should not have 75 appearances for the United States. He's been, frankly, somehow he's been mediocre since coming back to, MLS. And there's just guys like if I go to the U.S. team here, there are other guys that just do not, frankly, deserve to be there. And there's guys that frankly do. Now, obviously, you got your big names like your Christian Pulisic's and your Brendan Aaronson's and your Weston McKinney's. Those guys all deserve to be there.
The guys I know, yeah.
And all of those guys deserve to be there. And they're frankly the backbone of the team. And if the U.S. does anything in this tournament, that's going to be why. Now, McKinney, I think has a small knock right now, but like your Pulisic's and your Aaronsons are going to be the guy that get you over the line. But if we go down the team here, like Sean Johnson, decent keeper, but I do think Zach Steffen is still better. Or even Gabriel Solinina, who's 18 years old, but just got a move to the $10 million move to Chelsea. Got a big move to the Premier League. He's obviously quality. And I think, Sean Johnson's a great keeper, but he's 33. Instead of bringing him as your third choice, why not just bring the 18-year-old, Gabriel Solinina?
Bring the kid.
Give him that experience. I get he's not going to play, but give him that experience of, seeing what it's like to be at a World Cup, because I personally do think Gabriel Solinina is going to eventually be the U.S. number 1 or U.S. starting goalkeeper. Now, if we go down the team here, Serginho Dest, he's one of the first names in the team sheet. Okay. Walker Zimmerman, decent MLS center back, fair enough. Anthony Robinson, Tim Ream, both played for Fulham. They're both in the Premier League right now, and eighth or ninth in the table. So they're both surefire shouts. Aaron Long is atrocious. Aaron Long is he's a center back for the New York Red Bulls. I absolutely do not think Aaron Long should be anywhere near this team. Obviously I'm a Canada fan, but looking at the U.S. objectively, John Brooks, who I mentioned earlier, should have been in this team. Absolutely should have been in this team. And the fact that Aaron Long managed to get in there ahead of him is ridiculous. So it's really tough. Now there's guys obviously like Miles Robinson and Chris Richards who would have been in that team instead, but they're both injured, kind of going back to the point I made earlier where it's just a disastrous World Cup, like having it in the middle of the season. Shaq Moore, decent right back option, probably won't play very much, but fair enough. Cameron Carter-Vickers has been doing well for Celtic this season. DeAndre Yedlin, who I mentioned earlier, again, I don't think he should be anywhere near the team. I do think somebody like a Mark McKenzie would be better, or even somebody like a Kevin Paredes, who's again a young guy, but I still think he would be better. Or even Brooks Lennon from Atlanta, all decent players. And I frankly think they'd be better off instead of DeAndre Yedlin, but Joe Scally, young player. That's one where they actually does make a bit of sense. Then you go into the midfield, you got your obvious guys, Tyler Adams, Yunus Musa, both phenomenal players, doing it the top leagues. Weston McKinney, as I mentioned earlier, Brendan Aronson, Luca De La Torre is a fair shout. He plays for Celta Vigo in Spain. And then you got, two decent players from MLS in both Christian Roldan and Kelton Acosta. So those guys kind of make sense. But even then, you're leaving out a superstar guy in George Mihailovic, who I think from Montreal, he's going to the Dutch league next year. I think Mihailovic deserved it more than, say, a Roldan. And then, going into the forwards, Gio Reyna, he's a surefire bet, no complaints there. Jesus Ferreira, now he had a decent season in MLS for FC Dallas. But again, I think Ricardo Pepi, should have been maybe looking at one of these spots, or even somebody like a Jordan Pefok, who plays in the Dutch league as well. I'm mistaken, the German league. I think one of them, one of them would have made sense. Christian Pulisic, obviously, he's going to be the first guy on the team sheet. He's going to be the guy that has to put the team on his back. And then you got your Jordan Morris, who Seattle did not make the playoffs this year, and the fact that Jordan Morris is still getting into this team is ridiculous. Again, that would be the guy I would instantly drop for Ricardo Pepi. I mean, it's ridiculous how Jordan Morris got in this team. Same with Haji Wright. I mean, he's not. He really, he's relatively inexperienced on the national front. And then you got guys like Tim Weah, Josh Sargent, who I both think are good players and
Fair enough.
and guys that I think will do this team. But as I said, there's guys in the reserves that really I think should have played over guys that we have. I just don't think Bro Hartley's coaching is going to get it done. I do think the U.S. is going to qualify for the round of 16. They're going to lose to England. England should beat them. England just has enough quality.
I will say this though, they're playing right after Thanksgiving. That's going to be an interesting match.
It is.
I'm excited.
Absolutely.
Listen, I don't necessarily watch the game, but right after Thanksgiving on Black Friday like that's going to be a very interesting watch. I'm excited.
Sure.
I am excited to tune into that. So again, Graysen, love the preview for your soccer podcast coming up, whatever you want to call it, but
Football Bizz.
Yeah, football. No, okay. Watch the term football there. That's all I'll say. But Graysen, if you want to shout that out, I don't know if you have that on any social medias yet or when that's going to drop.
Not yet, but it will be here soon.
Okay. Do you know whether it's going to be out on Spotify, all that stuff? Like,
I'm still working out the details. YouTube is definitely going to be the first place
Okay.
because we are going to be recording it on Zoom.
Sweet.
So that'll be where it is first. There's a lot we still got to figure out. We still are, this will be our first episode, just doing a giant preview of the entire World Cup. So definitely tune in, watch it, check it up on YouTube, and
Fantastic.
we'll I hope to intrigue everybody.
Well, if you guys are interested in World Cup coverage, make sure to tune into Graysen's podcast. I'll probably try to link to it when it does air on the Down the Wire page. So that I'll let you guys know about that. But if you guys are not following Down to the Wire at this point, what are you guys up to? We are available on all streaming platforms, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. We're also available on YouTube as well, like Graysen had mentioned. And you can find all of those links in our Instagram bio at down.tothewire on the IG. Graysen, I want to hop on to another crazy trend that is happening in the world. You were talking about the business side of football, of soccer, whatever you want to call it. This is, for going to a business school, this is probably the most business that I've talked on my show in my entire time being here. I talk about, kind of like all the other undercurrents and things like that. And that leads me into this next topic, which, obviously involves FTX, the cryptocurrency trading platform. They're collapsing, but before our very eyes right now. It's all just becoming a giant fraud, giant scam. And a lot of athletes right now are getting dragged down with it. Their founder, Sam Bankman-Fried, is, he was being compared to guys like Warren Buffett as like this next big billionaire. And he is now just like left with crumbs and potentially will be going to jail for the way that he ran his company. And, a ton of guys are now getting thrown under the bus. Guys like Tom Brady, Steph Curry, Shohei Ohtani. Comedian Larry David is even being thrown under. You mentioned Shaq is, involved in a lawsuit as well. And this is a giant class action lawsuit because these athletes appeared in like Super Bowl commercials. Tom Brady was on his Instagram with like a flamethrower pretending to mine Bitcoin and was saying, oh, like we need to get on, like you guys need to get on the FTX train. And, he was saying like, this is the next best thing. And it all just blew up in their face. And I said that this World Cup might be the Fire Festival of World Cups. This is the next Fire Festival. There's going to be an FTX documentary in the next like 6 months. I guarantee you.
If not in the next 6 months, it'll definitely be in the next couple of years. I mean,
there's going to be an FTX Netflix documentary.
For sure.
There's going to be some inside, there's going to be some people on the inside talking about their experience, and it's going to be a wild time.
Oh, for sure. And the fact that so many high level people have been involved in this, obviously the guys you mentioned, but then there's also, I think, Gisele Bündchen as well as Tom Brady, she's involved with it.
And here's the thing too, Brady, because I get the fact that these guys are getting sued. It's not just like they were like spokespeople that were hired for like a little like thing with this. And it was like, hey, we'll give you like a couple $1 million for like, for just a promo shoot. Brady had $500 million invested into FTX.
Yeah. And
it's worth zero now. It is gone.
Yeah.
That is insane. Steph Curry, I believe, had 100 million, nothing. And then Shohei Ohtani had like some sort of a deal to where it was like, it wasn't a complete investment, but it was like a partial thing. And it was similar amount of money. It's now worth less than $100.
Yeah. And
so they've lost too.
Yeah. And not to, yell at the market per se, but I get why Bitcoin and all of, other cryptocurrencies have been popular. FTX is obviously an exchange service for them. But I don't understand why you would risk all of that money, especially if you're a Tom Brady and you have that much invested into that. I don't get why you trust everything. Like, at least, if you want to throw in a few hundred, couple mil into there, I mean, sure. When you have that kind of money, it's like, go for it. But why put everything into that?
Mm-hmm.
It just, it's kind of mind boggling to me, because it's like, you're like, if I was doing this, if I had their kind of money, I wouldn't even trust it. I would just, get a freaking, like savings bank or something, like with Fidelity or someone like that. Like, just put my money away in
like invest in like gold or something, like something that's like physically there. Like the fact that it's a material, like it's not even a material thing to where you can say like, at least I have like this possession and eventually it'll be worth this much money. Like I know cryptocurrency, it's not going to just shut down. Like they're like the servers are going to go down, but the fact that there is no physical entity to it, there's so much volatility with it. I mean, and I know so many people involved with crypto to where, the prices just go up and down, and like they're just like always going crazy over
They
it.
do, but I have no idea if it's going to rebound from this, because exactly. this crash is, it crashed the whole market basically, because, as you mentioned, Sam Bankman-Fried, he was worth $16 billion, a couple weeks ago. He's now worth like way less than 1 billion. Like, he's not even, no, I say now, and he still has some money, but he's not what he was.
No.
And
he was supposed to be like the next empire, like that. Yeah. He was supposed to be that next guy.
It crashed and burned. It's FTX fell faster than Twitter.
Yeah. I was watching it's the Snapchat story. It's like the, what is it? It's the
I'm not sure.
It's like the Something America thing. It's that what's the name of it?
It's something Save America.
Yeah,
that one. Okay, yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, I know the name of it. Snapchat story.
Yeah, it's something Save America. I have seen it before.
Good Luck America.
Good Luck America.
Good Luck America. So I was watching that, and they were kind of going into it, and like they ended up saying one of Sam Bankman-Fried's like close associates or like someone that like is close in the cryptocurrency industry, and they flash over to Anthony Scaramucci on like a yeah, right. They flash over to him, and he ends up saying, "This is one of the darkest days in crypto history." And I'm just like, yeah, man, you've seen some dark days, bud. So I can definitely understand where
this was crypto's Black Tuesday.
No, it's
like,
bad.
This was their like downfall. Like,
and I know people that are really invested in crypto. I've never gotten
that. Me neither.
I've never been that guy.
I've never, like, not to sound like some boomer, but I've never trusted it.
And listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not even invested in the stock market. So like I know I need to probably get involved with that. But
yeah. And actually the stock market's a good point. This I don't know what that was.
Don't worry about it.
Okay. And the stock market's a good point, because like, well, and if you're going to invest all your money, why not do it in a stock that, is somewhat consistent, like IBM? Mm-hmm. IBM is one of the few stocks out there where it consistently goes up and down. It's one that you actually can buy low and sell high, because it has that type of volatility, and then it also can pay a dividend. The reason I know this is because my dad invests in IBM. So like why not just go for something like that, something that is feasible? Mm-hmm. Like where you can at least put your money in. And yeah, the market does have its crashes, of course, but the market always rebounds. I don't know if the crypto market's going to do that.
At some point it does. Like, here's the thing, like we saw like the Great Depression, and like obviously
it took a while, but it still did rebound.
Like eventually it builds itself back up, and it takes like a couple, like, it's a national travesty, but eventually it will recover.
Yes.
I don't know if the crypto market can recover from this.
No idea.
Because again, there is no material value behind it. Because of this amount of just fraud that's gone on, it might be too much to recover from at this point. There's nothing that they can build themselves up back from behind.
Yeah, and that was part of the problem too, is there was a ton of fraud surrounding it. And there was I just learned a little bit about it in one of my classes here at Bryant, and there's basically like certain employees that basically just watch out for fraud so that it doesn't get hacked. And then, that's basically their job. Is to basically implement certain types of programs that basically prevent fraud. And then the whole thing where there's like, there people say there's like, oh, it's a limited amount of crypto. I'm like, how is there a limited amount of crypto?
It should be infinite.
Like, yeah, like it's
but I do get how it works. There are servers. There is technically a limited amount of Bitcoin that you can mine. Like that there are certain like codes and stuff that can unlock.
Yeah.
I get how it works. I understand like the premise behind it, but the fact that that there's still only a limited amount is still so weird to me.
It's I don't know. Maybe it's it's kind of a foreign concept to me because I know a little bit about it, but I wouldn't call myself an expert by any means.
And maybe it's the fact that the crypto market can probably stay somewhat stable, like the cryptocurrencies themselves might be able to stay stable. But the fact that if the traders start to go off the rails like this, that's where we're gonna have the problem. If people are gonna be too scared to invest because they're gonna say, well, who knows if this next guy is trying to scam me? Like they're gonna have no idea.
Yeah, no, it's hard to say, and I don't think the industry is going to recover, frankly. And I don't know how it's going to fare for your Tom Brady's and your Gisele Bundchens, who, obviously the divorce is happening now, but they were considered a power couple. And
point, yeah.
Like they were definitely by and far a power couple. Before she's like, oh, stop playing football. But that's beside the point. The fact that they were absolutely a power couple. And now they're both like having trouble.
Yeah.
Like I think they'll be fine. Like they'll obviously still have some money, but they're not going to be what they were.
No, there's definitely going to be some trouble going on there. Trying to think really, like as this does continue, like what is this going to be like will these guys actually have to pay up more? Like do you think that they're actually gonna do you think they'll like agree to some sort of like settlement out of court, or do you think there's going to be actual like litigation going on? Because they're being brought up on like defrauding charges right now.
Yeah, I think there will definitely be some type of settlement. I think that there will be kind of not a collusion per se, but I feel like a lot of the more famous people that have been associated with this, I do have a feeling that they're gonna probably try to come up with some collective bargaining agreement or something like that, to where they're gonna basically say like, okay, we obviously messed up, we knew what we were getting into. We'll give you this much.
Get off our backs, please.
Let's just pretend it never happened.
Yeah.
I do think that is by and far a possibility. As for the business people behind FTX, like Sam Bankman-Fried, I think he's done.
He's done.
Like the fact that he was behind.
This is like behind it. This makes Bishop Sycamore look like a joke.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to relate this back to sports in any way possible.
Yeah, it's something that I don't see, a recovery. And I think people like, Tom Brady, Steph Curry, Shohei Ohtani, among others, I think they'll find a way to dodge. They're not going to go to jail over this.
They're not going to jail.
There might be some significant payouts.
Yeah, there'll be some payouts. And I think that, they always find a way. I'm just going to say that they'll find a way, but it's definitely obviously interesting seeing all this get brought up. But Graysen, on a, less serious note, with the potential death of crypto, what are these crypto bros going to find? Like, what's their new personality going to be?
That's tough.
I don't know. What are they going to take up now?
I mean, honestly, they'll probably just revert back to the stock market.
Yeah.
They'll probably just go back to that and be like, oh, what stocks are doing well today? Or what's the next big stock?
Fair enough.
I
mean, but then
it's like the meme.
But then we're gonna have the GameStop crash again. Like, do you remember? That was
Oh yeah, no, I remember
Robin,
that.
the Robin Hood thing with GameStop. That was one of the wildest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, and that looks like a minnow compared to
Oh my
like,
God.
If that's a minnow,
I remember
this is a big bass.
I remember when the GameStop price hike went like was happening. Like I was watching CNBC, and my mom was like walking in the room, and she ended up going like, what is happening right now with GameStop? What is going on? Like, why are like,
I don't know.
Why?
It
And
just
like,
caught
and
meme.
yeah, and I had to try to explain like meme culture to her. I was like, Mom, you're not gonna understand this right now. This People are doing this because it's funny, and
it's kind of the same thing when Dogecoin took off.
Yeah. It's just like, but it's real money. It's like, yeah, but people are willing to, have fun right now. And eventually it did come back down to crash and burn. But yeah, actually, what is GameStop trading at now?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just
because I think that they were trading for a lot back.
Oh yeah.
At some point. Oh, they're at $27.
Where I forget where the peak of that was, but it was. I just remember it was really high.
I go back. They were trading at close to what? I want to go back over 5 years or something. Okay.
I think it was. Yeah, that was like 2 or 3 years ago. I want to say.
Yeah, it was January of 2021.
Yeah,
it was.
It was last year. Okay.
Yeah, because right beforehand they were trading for like less than $1, and then it went up to close to like, if I can really get the optics on it, the high. It was something around like, actually, it's still trading pretty high, but I think it was like over like $100 that it was trading at one point.
I don't know. Maybe that's what I should start doing is just start buying some lower stocks and then just hoping that one of them
just
hoping one of them explodes on like Instagram or something. Yeah. I would say Twitter in that sentence, but I don't know how that's gonna go.
Honest to God, though, I mean, if you put a low amount into Twitter, like nothing too crazy, and if it was to recover like big time, and they were somehow able to figure things out,
it's possible.
Because here's the thing, like they are a social media company. If they just unveil like, if they pull at Instagram and steal something from like Snapchat, because that's what the social media companies do. If they were just to do that, they could probably boost their sales by like
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, they'd figure out a way.
Yeah.
But Graysen, obviously, we've talked a lot of business on this show tonight.
A little more than normal.
It's far too much than I want to. And frankly, I want to get into talking some NFL news and actually have some fun with some like just kind of like some drama topics, stuff I like to do more on this show. And it's the last topic I want to talk on this show before we do end. And it's the fact that the Green Bay Packers right now are a dumpster fire.
Oh yeah.
They are going up in flames like worse than I ever thought possible for their franchise. They're 4-7 right now. They lost 27-17 to the Tennessee Titans, and it is not looking good right now for Aaron Rodgers and company out there. Matt LaFleur's days are numbered. We already know this.
Yeah.
What do you think the Green Bay Packers have to do next? I mean, that loss of Devontae Adams is hurting me.
I didn't even think that, like, I knew that they were going to miss Adams. Obviously, I think he's a top 5 NFL receiver. Mm-hmm. Last year he was probably number 2 behind Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
This year maybe he might not be, that guy. He's probably not up there right now with the Diggses and the Jeffersons, but it's tough. And the thing with LaFleur is he's clearly a decent coach. He had a phenomenal record the first 2 or 3 years he was in the league. So I feel bad for him because I mean I feel like he's doing everything he can, and Rodgers is just criticizing his play calling.
Mm-hmm.
Now that being said, I do still think Rodgers is the solution. Mm-hmm. I don't think that Jordan Love is that guy.
I don't think he is either, but at this point, like, do you like I don't think that you sit down Aaron Rodgers. I personally
with that contract he just signed, you can't do it.
No, you can't do it. Here's the thing. I know like Barstool Sports is like saying, is it time for Jordan Love? I don't think it's ever going to be time for Jordan Love.
No,
we saw
with Rodgers around.
We saw him in that KC game, and I know that he was put in a tough position because Rodgers like tested positive for COVID, and like he was kind of put on the spot in that game. I don't think Jordan Love is the guy. It was a waste of a pick, and I think that they're gonna have to do something else at quarterback once it's Rodgers' time to leave.
Yeah, Rodgers obviously signed that 4-year deal earlier this year where he basically got a freaking ton of money. And he's gonna be there for the next couple of years. So it's a matter of figuring out what to do with him. Now he's got some guys out there, like he's got, Watson, who's been despite this Packers struggles, Watson's, kind of come alive the last couple of games.
He's someone to look out for. And because Aaron Rodgers will find like a rookie guy like that or someone kind of under the radar, and he will isolate them and be like, all right, that like this play worked with them. Let's try to expand the offense and get them more involved.
Yeah, he's got Watson. What's the other rookie tight ends or not tight end? Rookie wide receiver's name?
Rasul Dobbs.
Dobbs. Yeah.
He looks really solid as well. Actually, is it Rasul Dobbs? I forget. It's Romeo Dobbs.
Yeah, I was like, he really wants to say Romeo.
It was Rasul Douglas was the name of the cornerback. I said
Romeo
Dobbs.
Romeo Dobbs.
I don't know why I said but anywho, it's the way I'm seeing Christian Watson kind of come on right now. It's not similar to Davante Adams, but what I saw Davante kind of start off in that offense, he was, kind of there with Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb. And, Rodgers would kind of he'd be like, throw to him every now and then and would find certain plays where he would be successful. And then he kind of naturally grew into that position with the Packers and eventually became the number one guy there. Yep. It was slow. And it was like, oh, here's Davante Adams, the rookie wide receiver. Wow. Like he could really be a good piece of this offense. And he, was like the 3 guy. And then all of a sudden, 2-3 seasons later, he's the best receiver in the NFL.
Oh yeah.
So it was a really quick turnaround for him. He was able to come around really quickly. And I wonder if Aaron Rodgers can do that with a guy like Dobbs or with a guy like Dobbs or Watson.
They've both shown a lot of too.
Right now, I'm looking at Watson. I think Watson.
I would say Watson as well. Obviously, there was
for capabilities. I think you could use him more in the slot and on some deep balls.
And there was that week 1 mishap where everyone was like, "Oh, what's gonna happen?" But obviously, I think now Rodgers seems to trust him more.
Yeah, I think Dobbs is probably more the deep ball guy. I mean, we saw him make that incredible catch against the Bills. So I think that, using him as more of a kind of a late kind of game time guy to, go down and score.
I think Lazard could be that type of guy too.
Yeah, Lazard is definitely an interesting guy as well. He's probably more traditionally the slot guy. He's the guy that is the veteran now of this offense, which is crazy because I remember when he came to the league as well. And it was like, oh, Lazard, he's going to be like, one of those guys that you find he's not necessarily he's not necessarily like kind of a safety pin guy or like that, that kind of a guy. But it was like, oh, hey, Alan Lazard's here too, because everyone's going to be doubling Davante Adams. So let's throw to Alan Lazard every now and then.
Yeah.
But counting on Alan Lazard, it's not going to work for your offense. You need to have someone they should have gone out and they should have traded for Brandon Cooks. Oh,
absolutely. Cooks would have been a no-brainer for the Packers.
Yeah. Either here's the thing. I know that DJ Moore was a big guy that was linked to the team. DJ Moore would have been great, but I think that it would have cost them way too much. I think that you could have gotten Brandon Cooks just on the fact that he's
on the Texans.
Well, and he's just the deep ball guy. I know that Brandon Cooks, he did some stuff, kind of down low for the Patriots, and he has some ability to do that, but he's just known for going on those fly routes and catching those deep balls. That's his game. That's it. And I think just having that, it would have just opened up the offense a lot more.
Or another guy, one that was traded last year that, I didn't know he was a trade target, but Tyreek Hill.
But that's where we're getting into the thing too. But that's where it's becoming too extreme. The Packers weren't going to trade for him. I think you could have made a not crazy package to get Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
I don't think you wouldn't need to sell the farm to get Brandon Cooks. You needed to sell the farm to get Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
The package the Dolphins gave up was a pretty big package.
Oh, it was huge. But just the fact that he was tradable, you can put it out there. It's like,
sure,
how would that have done? Because Rodgers can throw the ball deep. I mean, that's kind of what he's known for. But Brandon Cooks would have been phenomenal for them. Even just some speedy receiver.
Yeah,
would have been decent for them. But they're 4-7. I don't see them going anywhere this year. They're not going anywhere this year. Obviously the Titans are a decent team. Derrick Henry's still a beast.
Yeah.
Had
a touchdown pass.
Yeah. He had a pass. He had a rushing touchdown. Derrick Henry is very much still that guy. So,
which I'm glad to see because, again, most guys by his age in the NFL are starting to break down.
And especially because he was injured last year.
Mm-hmm. And you could have thought, all right, this is going to be the beginning of the end. Guys like start to break down at this point.
No,
I still have Ezekiel Elliott on my fantasy team, but I'm, starting to regret that decision each and
Tony Pollard is going to take over for that team.
Yeah, he's going to.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I would, at the beginning of the season, all my friends, we were just saying how Tony Pollard's just like a meme and like, don't pick him up. Like he's going to just be stuck behind Zeke. He's
I
actually
picked Zeke in a couple leagues and I picked Pollard, a ton of places later just because I wanted the safety net.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, no, Zeke is not what he was.
No. But I am glad to see that Derrick Henry still has some, juice left in him. And not even some juice left. He looks like he looks fine.
He still looks like the guy he did a couple of years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. So I'm really happy with what he's got going for him. But Graysen, we are unfortunately now down to the wire. We're about to wrap things up on the show. But before we do that, I want to just go through what we talked about on the show today. We talked about a whole lot and kind of got outside, my typical comfort zone of what I like to talk about on this show.
Got into business.
We did. Yeah, we got into business and, we go to a business school. Not a business major. And I
am, but that's I'm not finance, I'm marketing. So
yeah. You're the fun business.
Yes.
That's my minor. I'm a comm major at suits. But anyways, we talked about the World Cup. We talked about the collapse of FTX and just everything going on with that. And we talked about the Green Bay Packers and, their recent woes. All in all, it was a great episode. Graysen, I really do thank you for tuning in and
of course
not tuning into the show, but being on the show. And I thank all you listeners for tuning into the show. I see some people still on the Instagram live, so I'm thankful for that. But before we go, you can listen to this show live on WJMF Radio 88.7 HD2 Smithville, Providence, on Wednesdays and Fridays, typically from 7 to 8 p.m. Sometimes it depends. We'll maybe be in like the podcast room, do things over there, but when we're live on radio and at our normal time, that is when we'll be here. Other times we might get shifted off is if there's a Bryant sports game going on. Like I know, last couple of weeks we got taken off because women's volleyball. If there's a men's or women's basketball game, we'll be off air at that time. But this is typically the time we like to be on air. So we thank you guys for tuning into the show. And from Down the Wire, I'm Brian Costa.
I'm Graysen Mortimer.
And we will see you guys next time.